Life Matters is on your radio. Lake 96.1.
Appreciate Judy coming in early this morning as she was in Ohio late last night. Nancy, ever been to Ohio?
Yes.
I don't mean a layover, actually been to Ohio.
Yes.
Some people
grew up in Indiana.
Some people
Uber.
count layovers as being to a said state.
There.
Yeah.
I've been in
flew
Denver.
over it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been in Dallas for all of 1 hour of my life because that was my American Airlines layover was. No, I have not really been to Dallas because, let's be honest, the airport is nowhere near, well, it's near. Different topic for a different day.
Anyway, Dave.
We've learned today that Judy does not like guys to come over in Speedos to her home, as I'm sure
wait a
most
minute.
people would.
Depends on the guy. No. I'm just kidding.
Some guys can get away with it in another country,
Nancy.
possibly.
Right. In another country.
Yeah, the name is Jacques, maybe. That's about it.
The pool boy. Anyway, it's
go
not,
ahead.
but it's not about that. It's not even about, and it's, the interpretation here. It's not even about how you dress. It's the behavior that goes along with how you're dressing. It's not, it's all encompassing. And for instance, I've spent a couple days at Country Thunder here.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I'd never been to Country Thunder. And there's some behavior that goes on when you combine heat, beer, music,
Heat,
heat,
testosterone.
estrogen, testosterone, that, it goes back to what you said, you lose your own dignity. And where do you draw the line? And why do young people think it's okay to do all that? It's like there were areas or portions of the it's like Girls Gone Wild. And it pains you to watch these, it's like,
Because they're living in the moment.
and that's okay, but it's not.
That's what young people do.
Okay, and somebody needs to speak truth into their life, which we do at my home, which is the present, because they're living in the present.
Right.
Seize the day, and I'm all about that. I think it's important, to be mindful of the moment and embrace that. And obviously, your surroundings dictate what's acceptable and what's unacceptable.
Right.
And if everybody's doing it, well, then
And what happens
why
there
not?
stays there.
Right.
Right.
That's right. And so the present will someday be in your past, which will ultimately find itself in your future. They don't understand those three components.
Right. It's like we talked about a second ago. We talked about you put something on Facebook. I'm just going to tell you that I'm the general manager here, and when I look to hire you, if you apply for a job here, I track down your Facebook or MySpace or Twitter or whatever, and I look at it because I think it's very telling. And if you're going to go into the local businesses and into the community and represent this radio station, I look at how you have represented yourself.
Right.
Because
When
if
you think
have
you're not being watched.
That's right.
Right. Because who you are in private is what matters.
Exactly. And so you think that stuff cannot be found or it's private or whatever. Nothing is private. Nothing. Your texts are not private. Somebody can get to that. Facebook is not private. All of these internet things, it's not private. And so that stuff does follow you. And just like your behavior can come around and bite you in the you-know-what in the future. And I don't understand sometimes. I think that we've just lowered the bar so much.
Yeah. The floor has become the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I think that these, and all of us range in age, but the same behavior, the same thought process has always been the same, but the technology that's now available to this generation and it's not just kids. By and large, it is,
That's
yes.
right. There's
but
600
there really is.
million active social network users for a reason.
Right.
People
Exactly.
want to be connected. They want to know what other people are doing.
Right.
They want you to want to know what they're doing. And those are, that's an inherent core desire within us. We want to matter. We want to know that someone's seeking us. Someone wants to know where we are and what we're doing.
And that's why people have their cell phone right next to their
That's
bed.
right.
I have
Right.
two cousins who the first thing they do in the morning, their alarm is in their phone. So as soon as they turn their alarm off, they literally go on Facebook or check their email or check their
they wanna be
texts
connected.
from overnight. People, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Who in their right mind would be texting you for something that's important at 3 a.m.? What can't you live without that you can't have that information when you get to school? I used to make fun of my sister when she went to high school. We our paths crossed. I was a senior, she was a freshman, so we had 1 year in school together. this is how old school we were. We still passed notes in school. We didn't have cell phones in school. But
Dave is really old.
But she would see her friends. Shush. She would see her friends at 2:45. I would drive her home. It was no more than 10 minutes from the high school we went to. Honest to goodness, she'd be on the phone 10 minutes later. Like, Laura, what are you talking about? You were just with me in the car, and we didn't talk from the high school to the house. What is that important that you need to discuss with your friends who you just saw 10 minutes ago? But it's the same mindset that these kids have now. They just have different avenues to connect and communicate with their friends and others.
And many of them are socially inept as a result of it. Yeah. And I'm all about the technology. I mean, I personally don't engage in much of it because I'm not good at it. And I would much rather be up in your face, looking you in the eye and saying, hey, girlfriend, how's your heart?
Right.
You know, and I will text that to friends. How's your
with
heart?
With eye contact.
Yeah. And I want my children to be able to communicate, to articulate what it is that they are feeling, wanting, knowing, desiring. And it's a struggle. It is a struggle.
It's it's easy to hide behind social media.
Hiding.
Too.
That's it.
Yeah.
That whole thing about hiding.
Yeah.
Because you'll say things
that you wouldn't say
you
face
would
to
never.
face.
You would never, because
you take pictures that you would never. It still amazes me the pictures that are posted on Facebook.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Not just of kids, of adults, of passed out in a ditch somewhere or passed out on a curb after
Look, you're
a
not so
bar
shining
hop.
moments. Yeah.
Now, again, if you want to have that picture and you want to put it in your shoebox and you want to laugh about it 10 years from now, amen.
Right.
But to post it on Facebook, well, only my friends can see it.
No.
Yeah, not so
it's
much.
The World Wide
Web. Yes. And here's what I think
World.
that stands for: wishing, waiting, and wanting. WWW.
Yeah.
Because that is what we are always doing as creatures: wishing, waiting, and wanting. And I think it's indicative of that to watch, the way these, and I hate to say kids, because like you said, Dave,
It's not just kids.
It's everyone settling for less than, in my opinion, what God intended them for, which is this abundant life. And instead we'll settle for a text message, or we'll settle for 2 minutes of communication about nothing that's significant, instead of the real deal.
All right, we've obviously diagnosed a problem. This isn't a revelation. This has been going on for a while. As parents, what do you do to fix it?
Well, as humans, as friends, as girlfriend, because I will tell you, you go back to your text thing, I get fabulous texts from Judy. I mean, you're really good at it. There are times
I'm really not.
like,
it takes me an hour to send one line.
But I'm really like, aw, I mean, she just, like she'll end, and say peace, and say, I mean, just, but she's right, calm down or whatever, and so, but he's right. What do you do? I mean, why? Again, we're settling. We're allowing the technology to replace the face-to-face interaction and the bonding. How can you bond over Facebook messages? It's great to reconnect. Like, I've reconnected with a bunch of high school friends, and that's fabulous, and I kind of see what they're doing. And, when I go back to Indy, I say, send a message to them, hey, what's going on this weekend? You guys going out? Maybe I'll hook up with you or whatever. And that's great. But it's not a replacement for friends. It's not a replacement for interaction and emotional connection and spiritual connection. Right. None of this is a replacement for that. And
so what do parents do?
Right.
Do they limit
How
their
do you
Facebook
make the
time?
kids
Do they
understand?
yes. Do they take the computer out of their well, see, even in this day and age, well, you can take the computer out of their bedroom. Hello, it's called an iPhone.
A smartphone that has
or whatever,
everything.
they can do it right there in their hand.
My son is required to fight with his girl on the phone.
Good.
You can't be text fighting.
Right.
You
Speak
cannot.
How do you enforce that, though?
I can't. It's the same thing. Like, all I can do, and as a matter of fact, we had this discussion recently. I said, how's it going? And he said, we were fighting. And I said, by phone or by text? And he said, both. And I said, more of which? And he said, phone. Okay. Because if he does what I say, you can't communicate that. You
Right.
cannot communicate.
Part of it is because you're always like 3 texts behind, and that's
Yes,
always the
and
worst.
your brain is
I'm
going.
doing this point, and then you'll send a text back or a Facebook message back, and they'll think it's for a point that they just made, but in reality, it's 3 points behind. And it's the worst argument ever because it's so confusing.
You got to say what you mean and mean what you say, and you can't do that on a text.
You can't, because you have more guts. You will say something that you really would never say out loud to someone.
Yes.
And you will say something far more disrespectful. And even if you didn't mean it that way, it can be perceived that way because, the tone of your voice, you can't tell what somebody's tone is.
Emails.
You can't tell right. You have to be very careful. You can't. And so But how do you? It's just setting boundaries, though, isn't it? It's really parents and and setting boundaries for your own friendships.
Well, and go ahead, Dave.
I was going to ask, as parents, is part of the potential issue the fact that this social networking, this technology, parents didn't grow up with it, so they're kind of almost afraid of it.
Or
so
ignorant of it.
Or ignorant of it. Again, ignorant's not a bad word. It means you just don't know. So them trying to parent their children about something they don't know a lot about, they're almost intimidated by that because their children know more about it than they do.
You know what? All I can speak from is my own perspective, and this is new to me. And what I'm asking for from my children is the communication or the dialogue that sells me on why this is good, and it will be they will leave people better than they found them as a result of that text, that voicemail, that email, that Facebook post. That the dignity of the person is always first and foremost. And I think that's what makes me sad I am trying to pour into my kids the knowledge that you were made in the image and likeness of God. That's what you were, whether you act that way or not. Image, and likeness. And in the Word of God, it says that you are made to exactly resemble. Mm-hmm. You mirror God, like to exactly resemble Him. And that's what you're called to do as my daughter, to bring the feminine soul and spirit of God into this world, and as my son, to bring the masculine. And so I'm trying to tell my boy, like, that girl wants to be seen, she wants to be sought after, she wants to know she plays an irreplaceable role, and she wants to have a beauty to unveil. And you, my friend, want a battle to fight, you want an adventure to live, and you want a beauty to rescue. And if you realize that, then how you go about doing that can't possibly be accomplished through a text,
right,
a Facebook post,
or a tweet.
Or a tweet.
Right.
I mean, I think it helped. Like, all those things are like additions to it.
Sure.
But the core thing has to be that these are my desires, and I know that they're in there. How do I best meet yours, respect mine, embrace ours, and leave this world better than we found it?
See, I just, I think you're right. I think it's just, I don't know. I'm not going to allow you to have this I'm not going to have this conversation with you via text or via Facebook. I'm not, it's setting your own, because, as parents, we can set those boundaries for kids. Like you said, I do not let, you cannot fight with your girlfriend on a text. You're going to have disagreements with your girlfriend. It's unhealthy if you're not having a disagreement.
Mm-hmm. You're not human if you're not having disagreements.
Exactly.
But it's also not healthy to do that vocally. You have to either vocally or face to face, have that conversation. But as adults, you also can't, I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's lower your own bar.
It's a balance, and every family is different. Every parental situation is different. You can't say one thing and then do it one for everyone. It's impossible to do. I will say this much: you've convinced me that I'm just going to have 4 cats the rest of my life. I'm not going to have kids.
Yes, yes, you will. Now that you have all this wisdom. I mean, I admit that I'm the worst parent ever, but I am trying. I am passionate, purposeful, and prayerful. And my kids would tell you spaz. And so if you want to do this because it's going to identify who you are, this cell phone, this car, this thing is part of who your identity is, well, then no, you don't need it. It's not a need, it's a want.
Right.
And tell me about the difference in what you need and what you want. Because at the end of the day, when you peel all that away, you're still this person who is made in the image and likeness of God, who has desires that are deep within you. They are shared by God, and no piercing, no tattoo, no outfit, no anything is going to change that.
Right.
Except if it diminishes, or that's what I say, like something about these people, something erodes in these kids as they behave in a way that takes away their dignity.
Right.
And that's what makes me so sad. So all of the, somehow I keep bringing it back to the dignity of the human person.
Yeah.
But like, I
It
think
comes back to it.
it does.
We've just lowered the bar.
And I think because we don't know, like, I'm going back to the same thing. Like, how about the expression, what's so sad is what dies in a person while they're living. So as I'm doing all of these things to try to feel better, look better, get your attention, be seen, be sought after, and all these men are out there trying to prove who they are, they have what it takes, but really, they have what it takes
Yeah.
as men. They have what it takes. They have the strength that they're trying to prove they have. And we as women have this inherent beauty that we're trying to make external, when the reality is that beauty, by definition, is pleasing, something pleasing to all of the senses. Not just what you see. That doesn't make you beautiful. Like, I know that I'm beautiful when I come to my man with desire, not when I demand him to be or say or do what I need him to be or say or do. And I can dress sexy, and I can act sexy, and I can do all these things. But at the core of my being, if my beauty doesn't invite and inspire, it doesn't comfort and nourish, I got nothing.
Right.
I have nothing to offer.
You bring nothing.
And I
That's
see
right.
all these young ladies, and I want to stand in front of them and say, baby, you are beautiful. Like the king is enthralled with your beauty. And I say to my son, like, buddy, you have what it takes. Like, you have what it takes because it was given to you by God. And you can't not be identified by a sport, by a grade, by a girl, by anything else other than who you are as a person. So, I'm sorry, went off on a
Why
tangent.
are you-
It's just what I do!
She's apologizing for talking on a radio station.
No, but, yeah, but
On a talk show nonetheless.
I know, apologizing for talking about the thing that seems to so be laid on my heart these days, which is these desires that we have that we just try to meet everywhere and every way. And it's all about, like you said in the beginning of the show, Nan, it's like they're hiding. They're
Right.
hiding behind it. It's hiding. And when we were created naked without shame. And the first thing we did when we stepped outside of what God's plan for us was hid.
Right.
And here's what God did. He went looking. He went looking, if you remember the story in the Garden of Eden. He went looking and said, where are you? Because he wants to know where you are. And then when Adam said, I was naked, I was afraid, and so I hid. You want to know about men? You just keep saying that statement in your mind. I was afraid, and so I hid. And that's what we talked about this weekend, this elaborate fig leaf that we wear around now, this elaborate fig leaf that hides like who we really are. Because we were created for this intimacy, like me revealing myself to you and you to me. I want to know you. I want to be known. But like, what if you're not going to love me? What if you don't want to know me? So now I'm going to be something I think I ought to be
Right.
in order for you to do that. And when you peel it all away,
Still the same person.
yeah. But it's so hard to be, like I always say, like, thank God that they blew it. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here naked. And I don't look so good naked.
That would be awkward.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find a big fig leaf.
Yeah. Yeah. And I passed those out at my talk this weekend. Everybody got a fig leaf to go home with.
Everybody.
Your fig leaf is showing, girlfriend.
Judy, we love it when you come on the show.
You do?
We do.
Why?
Because you're so good at
You
it. Everybody loves it, actually, and thank you very, very much.
No, it's my privilege to be here. Thank
you
you.
class
thank
up
you.
the place, actually. So,
Really?
Yeah, you do.
I got a lot of class. It's all low.
You
But
do?
I got a lot.
Dave, is it time to take a break?
Yeah. Break time.
Still getting married?
October 15th.
And
Okay.
looking forward to it and bearing and having many children born into the world. That's some time.
3 the most.
See, so in the beginning it was 4 cats. Now he's got 3 kids. I love it.
Well, that's the plan now. He's also supposed to be playing shortstop for the Yankees at this stage of my career, too. Derek Jeter ruined that.
Okay, we will talk about something other than Dave's dream life when we come back right here on Life Matters. You're listening to Lake 96.1.